So we're going to press the button, and we're going to wait for chat to tell us if we're live or not, and just awkwardly stare at the camera because that's normally how this works. But please let me know in the chat if you guys can see and hear us. Victoria, if you could say something so that way they can also check to see if they can hear you as well.
Hey, everybody.
But my name is Heroin Bob, and I do Bob Buys. And this lovely lady is Victoria, who is one of the trifecta at Super Geeked, where I would love if you would just tell us a little bit about Super Geeked and what that's about, and about maybe your partners in crime there.
Okay, so we had some ideas about starting a podcast, a zine, because we grew up in like 90s punk rock and hardcore scene. So like we made zines all the time. We were trying to figure out a way that we could just sort of like put all of our creative energy out there. And I came up with the name Super Geeked because, you know, I felt like that would really encompass anything that we get super geeked about. And my friend Oliver and I were going to do a podcast, but I'm a visual person. I do graphic design. I build websites. You know, that's why I do all of our social media and edit our videos and do like our graphics and everything.
Ah, okay.
So for me, it was easier to do a YouTube channel because I'm a visual person,
right,
versus trying to do a podcast. So we do still want to do a podcast eventually, which will be Oliver's baby. Like he's going to have full reign of that. I'm just going to be like on the the podcast, but yeah. So, and then my friend Gayla, she's really into doll and toy collecting.
Okay.
She collects vintage. Yeah, she collects vintage and modern. So some of our YouTube subscribers are from her toy friends, and which is something we don't do, but you know, we just sort of want to. I have so many weird and interesting friends. I have a friend who's a firefighter that owns a comic book shop.
Okay.
You know, we have friends, you know, who are into henna and ghost hunting, and we're into record collecting, and Oliver and I are artists. So we just wanted to do something where it would be all encompassing. We could put all of our creative energy into it.
I didn't know you were an artist. What kind of medium do you work with?
So I do mostly oils and acrylics. I do a lot of mixed media.
Okay.
I'm a really big texture person. So Oliver is too, which is kind of funny. I guess we sort of bond over that. But yeah, we just like, you know, anything. I'm really, this is going to sound weird, but I'm really into nature and architecture. Oh, no, my kid just popped in.
Hello.
Okay, Jordan, you're going to have to go back out. No. Go back out. Jordan.
Wait, I'm going to say hi to Daddy on there.
Daddy's not on there.
Yeah.
Okay, Josh.
Daddy. Hi, Daddy.
Seriously, shut the door. So that's another part of my life, is I'm a mom. I only have one child at home right now. My mom has the other one, and I figured we wouldn't get interrupted, but I guess we did.
No, that's not how children work. Well, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, Victoria, is because like I am finding a lot of really amazing women here in the reselling community on YouTube. That like Alicia here from Married Life is another one who's in the chat, being, you know, fellow Mississippi love. And like I'm just finding a lot of really strong business focused women in the reselling community, which, you know, I very much jive with that. So I guess wanted to know, like, we talked a little bit earlier as to why you decided to start reselling full time, but like, how long did it take you to really be comfortable, like financially reselling full time? And I know your kid is adorable because he keeps popping up in the background. It's very distracting.
Just kidding.
Let me text my husband real quick.
No, it's really okay. I mean, I think this is very zeitgeist for our time here, especially with a lot of people doing lives in Zoom and house party stuff now. So I feel like this is par for the course here for that. But I just want to know, like,
Yeah.
how long did it take for you when you were like, all right, I'm going to just start reselling and I'm going to make this my full-time gig? Like, how long before you were really comfortable, like, I guess, financially to do that? Because I know a lot of people feel very uneasy to make that transition from extra money to like, this is my job.
So I did not go through any period of getting ready to be a reseller. That would have been ideal to transition. I started selling on eBay when eBay launched in the late 90s, and I used
That's
to do it
amazing.
full time. Yeah, way back when I used to I sold all my husband's toys on eBay, like his Star Wars toys and everything back in the day. I'm sure he appreciated that. But and then something happened with eBay. I ended up moving over to Etsy, and I sold a lot of like mid-century modern stuff because that's what I collect. And just it was something I started doing and was into it. Well, anyway, I got a full-time job. I worked a job, and I'd resell part-time here and there over the years.
Okay.
Sometimes I would go through spaces of time where I didn't resell at all. And then sometimes I would start reselling again because I got, I was antiquing all the time, cycling through my own stuff, whatever. So when I lost my last job that I had for 10 years, I sort of got thrown into it. And I really wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I knew that I wanted to stay home with my kids and be there to be able to participate in their school. And Gayla, who's part of our team, actually is the one who suggested for me to try to start reselling. And it wasn't intentional to be full-time, but it ended up being that way. And so I've just sort of went with it. And it's been really fun because I've always been about the hunt. I've been antiquing since I was a little girl. I used to go with my mom and my grandmother. And so it's just natural for me to be like a hunter out there looking for treasure. So I sort of flocked to it. And when we started our channel, I was a bit nervous to have, the reselling content because I wasn't sure how people would react to, we're not just reselling on our channel.
Right.
Our YouTube channel is so much more. And a lot of reseller channels are just reselling and, less about lifestyle and their interest and things like that. So I wasn't really sure, but we just decided to go with it because I'm not just reselling. I'm so much more than a reseller.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I hope people will want to follow along.
No, and see, that's also really cool. Like so before I ever ask anybody to be on here, I normally watch most of the backlog, and I realized that a lot of some of the older videos, Oliver, who is your partner in crime, who's in the chat, does a lot of book stuff as well. And I've also seen some stuff on the Instagram with the Misfits. And Oliver, you are 100% correct.
Yes.
My name did come from SLC Punk. That is my favorite movie. Matthew Lillard is Bay, and also the biggest D&D nerd, if you did not know. He actually has his own D&D company that does like their own like campaigns and stuff. So that's also, I was like, I am a big nerd and I do a lot of other stuff as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, oh, she's awesome. And seems like you also did roller derby at some point in your life as well.
Yes. So I started roller derby in Ohio. That's where my husband's from.
Okay.
And we knew after Hurricane Katrina that we were moving back to the coast. We had actually come down for our wedding and ended up in an attic for 5 hours.
What?
And yeah, we weren't going to get married, but my grandmother said that we'd been living in sin for 5 years, so we had to get married. So we still got married, and we went from 300 guests to 30, and we went back home and decided we were going to move back to Mississippi, which is where I live. I live on the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Okay.
So the deep South. And so when I came back, I didn't want to give up roller derby. And my friend who started the roller derby league in Dayton gave me a lot of information about their bylaws and how her paperwork was set up. And so I came down and started the first roller derby league in Mississippi, the Mississippi Roller Girls.
Oh, wow.
So that was in 2007. So yeah.
Well, that's just when roller derby was starting to come back to begin with, because I think Texas was in 2005.
Yes, it was at the very beginning.
So that's
It
awesome.
was when it was really campy too. Like, and then, they went through a bunch of rule changes and stuff. But that's what got most of us into it, was how campy it was.
True. I think that was like the big transition to like from the camp, and I could do a whole segment on like the transition from
Yes.
early roller derby on.
Yeah.
But that's why I tell people, the only thing that I'm good at 3 things for reselling. Like you can come to me with these 3 things and I will be able to do it. It's roller skates, anything Adidas, or anything book related. I got you. Anything beyond that, I'll have to do some research on. But it is mostly because I've been on skates since I was 2. So have you always been roller skating, or was just something that like fit for
It just
you?
did. I stopped roller skating for a long time. And I mean, I roller skated as a kid. We'd get dropped off at the roller skating rink. And
Yeah.
so, it's something I got back into like later on.
That's really cool. But so you do reselling full time. What platforms do you resell on and why?
So I've always sold on Etsy since they launched. I've just gone through periods where I didn't sell, but I've always sold vintage, and I've always sold I collect American pottery from the mid-century modern era. Milk glass, Pyrex, all kinds of things. That's why I was into a lot of your videos, because I know
okay.
when my friends go and buy mid-century modern furniture or anything, they call me. So I've always sold on Etsy, but I just started Poshmark last year for the first time. I didn't even have the app. And so I sell on Poshmark now, which has been basically my main platform, but I'm starting to sell on eBay again, which I hadn't done in I don't know, almost 20 years. And then
It's changed a lot.
it has. And then I'm just starting to sell on Mercari. So I'm selling on all 4 now.
Okay. Like Mercari for me is a very hit or miss. Like Mercari, I only list something on there anymore that I know is immediately going to sell, because their system is not conducive to anything that doesn't sell within 48 hours. At least for me, I found that to be the case. What about you?
I just started this week on Mercari, so
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then.
I don't have any base for that yet. And most of the stuff I've listed, I sell a lot of ModCloth because I'm really into vintage
Oh,
and
well,
vintage
then you'll
inspired.
be good.
And so I've had a lot of interest, but I haven't sold anything yet. So we'll see how it goes. I just sort of want to diversify, with my reselling.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely a big proponent in, if you are going to do any kind of business or just in life in general, you should try to diversify your income streams as much as possible, so you're not only relying on one primary source of income, because you never know when that's going to go away. If you rely on one income source, for me personally, that might just be the severe survival instincts I have as well, because I have worked 3 jobs pretty much from the time I started college until about 3 or 4 years ago, when I finally got diagnosed with my neurological disorder. So,
That's a lot.
that's it's just a lot. So, the job I have now, because I'm fancy office job, but I still I've turned all of my hobbies like thrifting and video games into other income sources, because I can't just have one income source. It makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So and now a lot of people who are in our reselling space are having to diversify their content, like you guys are doing in Super Geeked. We're starting to see a lot of resellers personal lives and other things that they're interested in, because they can't go thrifting, or they haven't been able to go thrifting for the past 6 weeks. So we've been able to see a lot more of people, because you can't just rely on one thing, and people are having to look at other ways to source as well. And I know that you, and I know Alicia and the Black Vintage on here, Mary from the Black Vintage, you guys have all been doing unboxings and stuff and sourcing from ThreadUp.
Yeah. It's not really what I would want to do all the time because of it's so expensive. And I do a lot of retail arbitrage, and that's the prices I pay for new with tags items. We have a great liquidation company here in Mississippi. I mean, they get ModCloth in, so they do ModCloth buyouts. So anything that's left over, that's overstock for them, once they've done all their sales, we get it.
Oh,
And
that's amazing.
that's how I have all the new ModCloth stuff I have. Alicia has a bunch of it too, you know, because we have the stores down here sell them. And sometimes we get them for $1 or $2 a piece for these dresses.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, you know, I did ThredUp just because it was something that I could do for the time being, but it's not a way I would source all the time. I have sourced ModCloth on there before, but again, it's like not always new with tag stuff. So you're paying more, you know, doing that. But I mean, we're doing what we can, you know, so. But unboxings for me are fun. Like I did that. I got one of those Poshmark Goodwill boxes.
Oh, I saw that video.
I knew it wasn't going to be good. I mean, but legit, I just got it because I thought it would be fun to unbox. And we have less than 300 subscribers on our YouTube channel. And so I'm like, well, if we drive some viewership, like whatever, you know, so I'll just, you know, I'm like, I'll try it. I'll see what's going on, you know. And like you were talking about diversifying, my main focus is my brand. Like Super Geeked is so important because it represents like us, and we want that to be where our growth is. And the reselling is a way for me to pay my bills, you know, and it's fun to do those. I have a video that's going to be coming out where Oliver unboxes some vinyl records. He got a big record haul. And at the same time, I'm doing an unboxing of ThredUp. And so we just sort of did it together. And so, yeah, our channel might not be for everybody because it isn't just reselling, but I feel like we just need to be true to who we are. And I hope people will want to stick around and watch it. But, you know, that's like we do a lot of events. We do comic book conventions, and we have big Pride events here, and we're doing Pride next month. And that's been a big thing for us. I bring clothes. Gayla brings her toys and dolls. Oliver he makes these coffin boxes that are artwork. They're really gross.
No, I saw the Freddy Krueger one.
Yeah, I have that one. They're really gross. And so, but he sells them like hotcakes. Like,
no, the odd and the interesting and the creepy definitely sell. I have learned that. That's why I normally flock towards like occult books whenever I find them at estate sales. I'm like, give me these, will give me lots of money, please.
Yeah, I make like horror art, like door hangers, and some sort of like nerdy door hangers. Like I've done Doctor Who, and I've done some Star Wars ones, and they sell. Like people buy them to either have this decor in their house or hang on their doors or whatever. So we sell all kinds of stuff, but it's just a fun way for us to get out there and, you know, share what we have to offer. So we do so much more than just like, you know, YouTube reselling, you know.
And that's something that I would definitely, if the world ever gets back to a state of normalcy, that's something that I told a lot of people that were in the gaming space, not just to go to TwitchCon, because like that's where my platform is I do a lot of gaming on Twitch. And the convention space, going to conventions, your local conventions, is probably one of the best things you can do to grow your audience by doing panels.
Mm-hmm.
And by just like having a vendor space, so you have somewhere to talk to people. You just kind of have to like get out of your shell a little bit, which I know can be difficult for some people.
Yeah, we like it because of that exact reason, because we have an audience that doesn't know who we are, doesn't know we exist. And we make, you know, connections with other people. When the last convention we did, we actually met some people who live about 45 minutes from us, and they have a big space where the lady makes like cosplay.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so she's got part of this warehouse, and then there's like somebody who sells like gaming things, like, you know, the tabletop gaming, and comic books, and they have all kinds of stuff in this one giant warehouse. So we're going to go there and do like a thing for our channel on their space, their like shared space and all this nerd
That's
stuff they
cool.
have. So yeah, I mean, that was just somebody we didn't even know that we made a connection with, at the last convention. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah. Like it is definitely like, so have you traveled very much with conventions or have you just done some local conventions?
We've done mostly local. There's a huge comic book convention. Well, it's not just comic books. It's all kinds of media, but it's called Pensacon. So it's in Pensacola. That's probably the furthest I've been. I haven't gone to any huge ones, but Pensacon's amazing. So, but we haven't set up there. That's just me personally, having gone, but yeah, so do you travel and go?
Yes, I did a lot. Hold on, I'm sorry. Excuse me. There you go. Sorry, my cat wanted in. I unfortunately cannot tell her no like you can tell your children because she doesn't understand. So
My kid doesn't care. I'm just glad he had clothes on.
me too. But yeah, no, I've traveled a bit for conventions. I've gone to TwitchCon every year. That's probably one of my favorite things to do. I've been
Where is
trying.
that?
Uh, it's been in California every year. I live in Virginia.
Yeah.
I was supposed to go to the PAXs this year, but hello, Moxie. They seem to have been canceled. I was going to help some of my developer friends run their booth because they develop. They're an indie producer, so they produce indie games,
That's awesome.
and I was going to help them because I love conventions and I think they're super fun. And I've never been to a PAX before, and I was going to get to go for free, so I was like, yes, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But I've done a lot of local conventions as well, and some of them I have found I will not go to again. And
Yeah.
I was hoping to do some more, maybe like a state over conventions, but things kind of stopped. So, how has life changed for you since stay-at-home orders have been in place?
Pretty much everything has taken a back seat because my husband's a firefighter, so he's obviously working. Most firefighters have a second job. He had to quit his second job temporarily because he he works at the local funeral home. That's where my stepdad's the manager,
Okay.
which is, great because he makes his own schedule and they are wonderful to him, but he's doubly exposed because,
Right.
you go into homes for pickups and there's families, you can't control how many people are there if they're wearing masks, whatever. So we just thought it was best to try to limit his exposure. And so he's just been doing the firefighting, but he's the only one going to the store. So I've been home for 8 weeks with my children. And I remember somebody asking me early on, like, how are y'all doing? Like health wise? I said, I'm fine health wise. Mentally, I don't know if I'm going to be after all this because I'm having to homeschool. But for Mother's Day, I did get out. The thrift stores were open in a neighboring state, and my mom took me over, and it was the most anxiety-ridden, scary thing I think I've done.
Why?
I think just because I haven't been out in 8 weeks except three times to go to the post office. So I haven't been around people, and like half the people were not wearing masks, half the people were not staying away from you. And so it just made me very nervous because we've been so careful. And so I don't know, it was full of anxiety the whole time. It was not fun at all. So it's going to be interesting to see how, as we start to get some sort of normalcy back, what that's going to look like now, and so I guess it's not the same for people who've been out. Like my mom and my stepdad still work. They're out in the world. They go to the store. So things haven't changed a whole lot. But it freaks me out.
Yeah, I guess for me, I personally I should probably be more concerned because I have a compromise, or I'm considered immunocompromised,
Right.
but I haven't stopped going to work. I haven't stopped going to the store. So my life, honestly, other than I don't get to see my friends because we normally would get together and play Pathfinder once a week, and I don't get to have lunch with my mom once a week. Those are the only two things that have really changed in my life.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not that much different, but like, it still feels different because it's always like, is this going to be the time that I get it?
Yeah. It's just
And
nerve-wracking. I mean, especially not knowing if somebody has it next to you. So but it's hard being home. I see my kids suffering, as much as, it's been hard for us. We have to remember that everybody else in the world is dealing with it in some way. And B, my children, like, can you imagine being 5 and 6 years old and not being able to express how it feels? And Josh took one of my children for a ride, and the other one was crying because he just wanted to be around people. He just kept saying, "Mommy, why can't I be around people?" And so they don't understand why they can't go to the pool and why they can't go play with their friends and why they can't go to school and why we might not have summer camp. So that's been trying to so my reselling stuff has really taken a back seat. I probably have put maybe 20% into reselling recently. I just do it when I can,
yeah.
because my focus has been them. And that's okay. I'm okay with that because we're healthy. We're, fine. We're surviving. It's okay. Like, we're going to be okay. So,
How has the school situation gone with that?
well, our kids go to private school, and so they were out immediately, and they immediately started online distance learning. Like,
Okay.
the first day they were out of school. And even though my kids are in pre-K and kindergarten, it was immediate. So the kids Zoom chat, we have my 4-year-old Zoom chats, or my pre-K 4, he's 5 years old now, but the one who's in pre-K 4, they Zoom chat every day. And
Okay.
and then my 5-year-old Zoom chats, my 6-year-old Zoom chats like 3 times a week, I think, but they have like, different math programs they do online, reading programs, things like that. So they're definitely trying to keep the kids connected, but it's just still hard. And we have a lot of meltdowns.
Yeah, it sounds like, like I'm sure. So I remember when I was a kid, like my brother and I are completely different people, but we're alike, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the country, and there were times when we had a big ice storm at some point, and we didn't have power or the ability to leave the house for like 2 weeks. And like he was going out off the walls, and I was just like, this is fine. But it's also like a different personalities, and you have a very vivacious personality. So I'm sure that your kids probably also have a lot of friends that they miss. And I think that's something that people don't talk about. Like kids definitely want to play. Like that's a big thing, is socializing your children when they're
Yes.
young.
That's why the Zoom chat's been so important, because the teacher doesn't get a lot of learning happening. I mean, they read to them and talk to them, but it's more about them interacting with their classmates.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. I subscribe to, positive mental attitude, PMA. That's really punk rock, hardcore ethos. Like, we're totally into. And Oliver's the same way. And really, as much as like you get depressed and down about it, it's just hard to, not remember that everybody else is going through something too. Like, the whole
Right.
world changed. It's never going to be the same. I mean, we lived through Hurricane Katrina. Things changed drastically for us on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. My entire neighborhood was wiped out. I mean, my grandparents
Wow.
were sleeping on metal lawn chairs, and because their house was gutted. I mean, and then 9/11, how much living through 9/11 changed the world. This is definitely going to change the world. And we just kind of have to like keep treading water until we get through it, because we will get through it. It's just going to take time.
No, I can't imagine going through something like Hurricane Katrina. Like, as someone who spent most of the time in Virginia, like we had Isabel, and that was like 3 weeks of cutting down trees nonstop. But,
Yeah.
our houses, like my family's house wasn't flooded. I didn't have to go to a shelter for an inordinate amount of days. Like, there was still safe running water. Like, I can't imagine what that was like.
It changes you. It changes the landscape of everything around you. And we didn't live in Mississippi at the time. We were still in Ohio. We had just come down for the wedding. But when I went back, I remember having a little bit of PTSD and being in shock. And I worked at the Victoria's Secret catalog. So I worked at the call center. I worked on victoriasecret.com. And I remember walking into this huge call center and people I didn't even know coming up to me because they'd heard about what had happened to us. And just not being able to like express anything because I was just so numb. But I would cry when I thought about, I'd take a warm shower and know my grandparents weren't able to do that because they didn't have running water. I mean, they had hoses all hooked up in the neighborhood and stuff, but it was hard. And then sleeping in my bed, knowing that they're sleeping on lawn chairs, and because they didn't want to leave their home, it was hard. But, there are positives that came out of it. My whole neighborhood, I live in a tiny little neighborhood because I actually live in the neighborhood where I was in the attic, where my grandparents' house was. And my grandparents now live next door, and we're friends with everybody in the neighborhood.
Aww.
We're all super tight. We have a hurricane party every year. Like, we all take care of each other.
Wait, what do you mean you have a hurricane party every year?
Everybody gets together, and we just like, some of our neighbors have golf carts and they'll put like debris all over the golf carts and drive around. And like, we just remember remember the days of eating Vienna sausage on bread and, and it's just fun. Like, it's just, there was good things that came out of it. As tragic as it was, there really were good things. And I'm thankful we wouldn't have moved back from Ohio. We would not have moved back to Mississippi. And I'm thankful for all the things that have happened in my life since I moved home. So that precipitated, because my husband was in culinary school at the time. And so as soon as that was over, we headed back to Mississippi. The year from Katrina hitting, we moved back to Mississippi. So, it changed things, but there are good things that came out of it. So I'd rather relive those things. I can't look at the pictures from that time period. My wedding pictures, the pictures of my parents live in the same neighborhood too. And their houses, had water. I mean, everybody in our neighborhood had water, but yeah, it's hard to look back, but at the same time, there's good things that came from it.
That's a really awesome and positive outlook to have. So,
Yeah.
like, I know that you and Married Life, Alicia from Married Life, are like reseller sisters.
Yeah.
Like, how did that friendship start?
It's all her fault. So Alicia, I've just met Alicia last year through the reselling community. She lives a town over from me. And she actually found me, I think, on Instagram. And she said, I'm thinking about doing one of these Posh and Sips. I said, oh, that's funny. I was going to sign up for one of those. And she's like, do you want to co-host it with me? And so she signed up for the first one. And I actually met her at the first Posh and Sip we had. But I tell everybody when we have our Posh and Sips now, because she and I go back and forth hosting, and then we'll co-host with each other. I'm always like, I have to tell people, like new people that come in, like, hey, just so you know, we all just met through Poshmark and reselling. Like, we haven't been like old friends, so people feel more comfortable. Because Alicia and I have done some like fun, like thrifting trips and stuff together, but I legit just met her at the end of last year. So we haven't been friends for a whole long time, but
it doesn't take a long time to meet people that you just totally click with.
Yeah. And it's funny. She's so supportive. I try to be super supportive of her. Like, I'm so glad that we met. So, with roller derby, I started 2 roller derby leagues. And I always say, if nothing came out of those 2 leagues, I got 2 of my best friends.
Aw.
from doing that. And so I'm grateful for that. So I'm grateful for reselling because I've got friends from reselling. So if reselling doesn't last for me, that's okay because I've got friendships that I know that are going to last beyond that.
That's so awesome. Do you have any questions for me? I feel like I have
Yeah.
monopolized.
So I've noticed, that we like to collect, or a lot about items that I collect too. And like you've done videos on glassware. And I'm just wondering, is that stuff that you have sold for a long time or you just researched it to do the video?
So for me, I have a degree in history with an emphasis in American archaeology.
Okay,
So
I minored in history and for my undergrad. I love history. In fact, I thought about going into historic preservation because I'm so much into architecture too. So I'm like passionate about like old buildings. So like, yeah, so like I'm a big history nerd too. That's so
so
funny.
so for me, reselling and is basically me using my degree. That is
Yeah.
all it is. Like I know a lot about ceramic and glass because I had to know it doing dig sites. I have to identify this whatever this was from this tiny piece of glass I got out of a hole somewhere. And
Yes, that's awesome.
so that's where I know. I don't collect it. I mean, I have pieces here that are just I enjoy until they sell. But the only thing that I really have a hard time getting rid of is books and this cat.
I love cats.
But I books are pretty much the only thing I truly like keep. I've moved a lot in my life, and the only things that I would never get rid of is I always packed all of my books. I have my 2 bookcases that my dad built by hand from lumber mill that he cut off of our home property. He milled himself off of the sawmill he made himself.
Wow.
And yeah, so those 2 bookcases full of books and whatever small furry animal I have at the time, the only things that absolutely had to go with me wherever I went. So I don't like having a lot of stuff, so reselling more consistently has been a fun adjustment to having a lot of stuff. But that's pretty much me. I like learning a lot. I feel like a day that you're not learning is not a good day to be alive for me personally. Thank you so much, Moxie. So I like if there is something I find when I'm researching that's interesting, I normally write it down and to look it up later. Like, okay, this interests me. Or if I watch another reseller that says that this sold, and I'm like, oh, that's really interesting and it sold for a lot. Let me figure this out. Like, I just like learning new things. So I don't know. And then the boy says things stick in my brain. Like, I have a hard time forgetting things, which is great if you're, as a history major or if someone going to school, that would be really great. But sometimes relationships, maybe not so much. But yeah, so that's just why like I know a lot of stuff and this reselling is the only way it's been beneficial so far.
I love that. I'm totally like that's just me. Like I love like I was talking about the treasure hunt. Like I feel like I'm an empath anyway, so like I feel like I feel so ingrained to things like objects. Like I feel like I need to know their story. That's why I'm so fascinated with architecture because you think about what got me into old buildings was I read a comic book when I was probably 13 years old, and it was about buildings and about the stories buildings could tell from the day that they're built. They may be built to be a restaurant or an apartment building, and then over time they go through a series, different. They become different things, and so if the walls could talk, all the stories they could tell, and how interesting that is. You
Have you
know,
been to Colonial Williamsburg at all?
no, but I've always wanted to go. My mother has gone, and so because we have family in Virginia, and my family's actually my grandmother's side of the family is from Virginia, so we are descendants of Robert E. Lee. So, actually, my grandfather's name was General Robert E. Lee, he was a surgeon in the Air Force, so he was a general. And so it's kind of weird, but anyway, the Lee side of the family is from Virginia, and so my great grandmother and my great great grandmother were all from Virginia, and so I've always wanted to go up there. My mom's been plenty of times, and we have some close cousins that live in Richmond, so maybe
Well,
one.
if you come up this way and you want tickets to go to Colonial Williamsburg, let me know, and I will come hang out with you and give
Yay!
you a private tour, because Colonial Williamsburg is my jam, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that it has a lot of like the original architecture, and I can tell the difference between American bricklaying and Flemish bricklaying and
Oh,
just
I love that.
all of that. So I would be down for that. That's one of the things that I think is probably that makes me the saddest for coming up this month, is because they were going to do the Governor's Garden Party at Colonial Williamsburg for Memorial Day weekend. And it's like a big soiree that they have in Colonial Williamsburg where everyone dresses up in period clothing. And it's like a big ball and garden party. And they were going to bring in a bunch of costubers. So there's a whole other side, like, there's a reselling community, there's a gaming community, and then there's like sub communities within each of those communities. Well, one of the things that I watch a lot of is costube, and that is a lot of not just cosplay, costubing, but like people that also do historical costuming.
Me too. I watch a lot.
And they had brought Pinset Tailoring. Do you know who Pinset Tailoring is?
No.
I will send you a link. But they brought him over to promote Colonial Williamsburg. He does a lot of Georgian Regency. Like, that's what he does. He makes bespoke clothing from the Georgian Regency period through to the 1920s. And I watch a lot of that.
That's so awesome.
And then there's also a subset within reselling where there's people that they like find really ugly clothes thrifting, and then they take them home and sew them and make them into something completely different. And that's like both costuming and reselling at the same time. And I think that that's also super cool.
That's so awesome.
Do you sew at all?
No, not really. I mean, I can mend a little bit, but not a whole lot. I have a sewing machine, but it doesn't get much.
Because I've heard you say it's not something I can fix when I've seen you get those thread up DIY boxes.
Yeah.
Or if something's got a pull in it, how do you fix a pull?
You can, if it depends on what kind of pull it is. You can wrap it around a needle and slightly pull the thread, and you can actually pull it back into place. But sometimes in really delicate fabric, it's really hard to do that without it damaging it. So like, I mean, I'm not very professional. Like, I've just know what I know from, being the age I am and like how long I've been doing things like that. But so there's some things I wouldn't be comfortable in. I feel like, would just be beyond my expertise to do it, but I can do a little bit. So I'll try to fix something if I have it. But yeah, like I can't do a whole lot. Like I would love to be able to make my own clothes, but I used to try to make my own clothes, but it was like really punk rock. Like it wasn't anything great, I mean, I'd still wear it because it was me, but like, I just do what I can.
Yeah, I totally get that. No, that's like one of the things that I want to try to learn. That's one of the things I wanted to learn how to do this year is sew, like make my own clothes. But with what is going on right now, that has not happened because of time. And I know that sounds really bad, but I was kind of hoping that I would have more time, but work never stopped for me. It got busier and more stressful. So,
yeah.
And then I think for a lot of people, I feel like people that are like maybe bored at home during this time, like I don't think any parent is bored at home at this time. Like it would be really hard. I'm sure that you're just with your kids all the time, and I'm sure you're loving it, because I don't know what parent wouldn't want to spend more time with their kid, but it's also like balancing things that you want to do with children as well.
I don't get to do a lot, but I mean, that's okay. I do. My mother lives a couple streets over from us because we all live in the same neighborhood. And she does take the kids from time to time. And like,
Aw.
she has one of my kids, tonight, because they're not used to being around each other 24/7. I mean, so that's a lot for them. And so they fight a lot because they're boys, so, but I do take a lot more naps. I keep calling it the apocalypse. I say I'm taking more naps than the apocalypse, because that's our only reprieve, is to get them to take a nap. And so if they do take a nap, then we try to sneak in a nap too. So I will say I've taken a lot more naps in the apocalypse.
I do not blame you. If I could take a nap, I would.
Yeah. I haven't even read any of the chat.
Huh?
I said I haven't even been reading the chat. That's terrible.
Oh, I've been responding with typing. It's different doing an interview style. Normally when I'm streaming, it's just me, the video game, and chat, so I can stop what I'm doing to interact with chat. But like I don't want to ignore you either. So I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna focus on you and then type, because I don't want to feel like I'm ignoring you at all, and I don't want them to feel like I'm ignoring them at all. But
my kids play video games, and they basically play the games. I mean, we let them play a bunch of the Lego games and stuff, but they've just started playing Tomb Raider. But unfortunately,
nice.
Well, that's because I like Tomb Raider, so I already had it. So anyway, before this all happened, my 5-year-old went to school and said something about having he was going to get a shooter out of his backpack, because Lara Croft had a backpack. And so I got a phone call saying, Gary said something at school, and he can't say that at school. And I was like, whoops, guess I shouldn't have let them play Tomb Raider. So I'm like, this is total bad parenting. But they've been playing a lot of video games in the apocalypse.
No, I don't think that's you're a bad parent. I think that's things just being overly sensitive, because I feel like when we were growing up, that wouldn't necessarily be something that would be a cause for alarm.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, when I was in high school, again, I grew up in the country.
Yeah.
Like, it was not uncommon for a lot of the camo themed trucks in the parking lot in high school to have a shotgun in the window hanging, because they were going to go hunting before and after school. So
Mississippi is very much like that too.
yeah. So it's just like, okay, it's not that bad.
Yeah. It's just different now. And what I think my thing is, I wasn't allowed to play video games. My stepbrothers were older than me, so I went to my dad's house, and my oldest stepbrother had an Atari. So that sort of dates me, but and then we had, and then every gaming system that came out, my other stepbrother would get. So like we would go over there, but he would pretty much hog the gaming system. So like I didn't get to play, I had to watch. And my mom would be like, go outside and play in the ditch, go build a fort, in the woods, So I think now that I can play video games, like I want to introduce that to my kids. It's something I enjoy doing. So although I don't get to do it anymore, because now my kids are hogging, the system. So
well, I mean, at that point, you just need to find games that have a lot of you just need to find more co-op games so you can play with them at the same time.
Yeah.
But no, I've always stated I am very lucky that my parents tried very hard to not genderify a lot of things. Like, it wasn't that my brother only got the gaming systems. The gaming systems were always family systems, and that we both had to share them. Yeah. So like we got equal Ninja Turtles stuff. We both watched the Power Rangers. We both did Pokemon. Like, it was very, they listened to what we wanted and what we liked, and not necessarily what was supposed to be boy or girl.
That's cool.
It was very cool. But
Yeah,
that's
I remember I went to go see the New Kids on the Block, and my brother was so upset about it, and so my parents bought him tickets to go see Ninja Turtles on Ice.
I don't think that was a fair trade.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles on Ice, can you imagine? Like,
No, I don't want to imagine.
it's so funny.
I do not. Have you ever seen screenshots of Finding Nemo on ice?
No?
You should try to find video clips of Finding Nemo on ice if you just want to be horrified. Like, that should not exist on any plane at all. It's like some things should just not be on ice at all.
I can't wait to see. That sounds good.
It's like, 1950s Disneyland horrifying puppet. Like, have you ever seen photos of Disneyland, like what the Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse look like from the 50s and 60s?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like you just don't know. Like, how did this not horrify kids? See?
Yes.
Mary gets it. Mary Googled it. You're welcome.
I'm gonna have to go check it out.
Did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask me before I let you go enjoy the rest of your afternoon with your lovely son?
I don't think so. I'm just really excited that I found you. I mean, because I feel like we have so much in common, and I just like that you're different, because I feel like we get so stuck in this whole, everybody's the same, doing the same things, saying the same things through the reselling community, and I just like that you're so different. Like, I
don't know how to take that because I don't know how I'm different. I still sell stuff online.
No,
I still buy old cheap shit and buy it and sell it online.
because you're cool. You get cool points for all the fun stuff that you do. Being a history nerd like me, and being into gaming, and liking punk rock bands, and playing roller derby.
Aww.
It's awesome.
Thanks. I wish you could tell I'm blushing. I am though. Thank you. Oh, you guys are nice. I don't take compliments well. Thank you.
Me neither.
I'm really glad I found your channel too. I think you're really cool. Like I've told you before, like I just love your style. Just like the big glasses, like you're just you are like just like Mary when I told her, like you are someone that is just very comfortable in your own skin, like you have your own style, you know what you like, what you don't like, and like you are completely unapologetic, like this is what I like, this is what I'm into, this is what I want to talk about, and I just think that's super cool.
It's taken time. It's taken years of going through phases, and in fact, my mom, because I still get tattooed at 40. I still go to punk rock shows, and my mom has always said it was a phase. I'm like, guess you can't say it's a phase now. I'm just the oddball in the family, but I'm more comfortable now, and I just feel like we all have something very special to offer. We're all so very different, and we're just I just love that. And that is the whole premise for our channel, Super Geeked, is to celebrate all of the things that I might not be into, things that you're into, but like we want to celebrate all that. We want to celebrate all of the differences we have and find commonalities too, So that's really what our brand is about, for Super Geeked, is just to celebrate all of that.
And I think if anybody like goes over and watches any of your videos on your channel, or if you go to your Facebook page or watch y'all's TikToks, because I see Oliver making TikToks.
Oliver is obsessed with TikTok.
Like you find, like, what you guys are super interesting about. And that's something I tell people when they like want to do a gaming channel. Like people can tell when you genuinely enjoy something versus if you're just doing it for the money or the clout or whatever. Like if you really love something, it comes across. And there is nothing that I personally find more enjoyable than listening to someone talk about something they're very passionate about.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Totally.
So thank you for talking with me, and I hope that you will continue to talk with me because I think you're amazing. And I think I might have to get your sister from Mississippi on here at some point because I also think she's just super awesome as well. So
She,
if she's still here, that was me asking.
She's actually cooking for her husband right now. She
Okay.
texted me before this, but I have to say it's funny because I am very tall. Alicia is very petite. And we were talking about this the other night. We took the funniest photo at our last Posh and Sip that we had together. And it actually looks like, it was supposed to be our prom picture, but it looks like I'm holding my baby. But Alicia is legit my bodyguard because she is like one of those people that just is totally herself. She doesn't make any apologies for it. And she is not afraid to speak up. I'm a little shyer than she is. And so she is, I call her a pit bull. She says she's a chihuahua, but see, she's still there. Yeah, she goes at our prom picture.
No, but I think that I'm very lucky to have you on the channel. I'm very lucky that I found your channel and I look for more awesome stuff. And Oliver, when you have more time, I would love to hear more of your book reviews as well. And I look forward to y'all's next video, which is supposed to be you guys unboxing things that you're super geeked about.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I just think you're so great. Like, I'm so excited.
All right. Before I get too gushy, you guys have an amazing evening, those of you that watch. Thank you for hanging out with us. Again, I will definitely link Victoria and Oliver's and what was the third lovely lady?
Gayla.
Gayla. Okay. I didn't want to mispronounce her name. I was going to call her Gail and then would have been totally wrong. Yeah. But you guys should definitely follow their channel. They have, like she said, a wide variety of just 3 lovely people talking about things that they really, really love. And it's wonderful, wonderful to watch. So thank you very much for being on here. And I will see you guys, I guess, in the next video or the next live.
Bye.